Neen here from the Hyperactive Bookworm, here today to talk to the amazing Kate Castle, who is the author of Girl Island. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Neen. Great to be here. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
That's a total pleasure.
Now, we've just got a few questions and I'll probably go off on tangents because that's what I tend to do. But we'll get straight into it. First question. Can you describe Girl Island in 3 words?
That's pretty difficult. I did look at this really quickly this morning when I was on a dog walk. And I was thinking, oh, can I do that? And I did think perhaps, well, first of all, I thought thrilling dystopian adventure. Ooh. But then I thought, I think it's more thrilling Sapphic adventure. It's probably a very brief description of it.
Yeah,
but you read it. You know what the book's like.
Yeah. No, definitely. The second one is definitely. I love that. Absolutely.
In a nutshell. A very small nutshell.
A very small nutshell. I love it.
Yeah, but that's a tough task. I mean, to think of it in 3 words is a tough task. My God, and I'm a writer, so that's tough. It's like writing a blurb. It's like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a little evil of me, but it makes people really think, and I kind of love it, even though authors kind of curse me a little for it. But I love this question. Now, could you just describe a little bit about Girl Island and where the idea came from?
Sure. I've had the idea for a very long time. I'm 47 now. And it actually came from, I studied Lord of the Flies for my GCSEs, which I'm not sure what you guys call it in Australia. Do you have SAT, same as the States?
We used to. Now it's an OP grading.
Okay, so those exams when you're 16 years old, we've studied Lord of the Flies, one of my favourite books, actually. And my English teacher, I remember distinctly, argued the fact that it just couldn't happen with girls. If there were just girls on the island, this wouldn't happen. And I remember thinking there, sort of sat there alone at school, pretty badly bullied, thinking, I'm not so sure about that. I think there's every chance. I mean, girls are savage in a different way, you know. But so I kind of had that idea. And when I took up writing the last couple of years after doing my degree, I was watching Castaway, and suddenly that idea came back to me. And then lockdown, so I figured, you know, I thought I'd prove her wrong, and hopefully I did.
Oh, absolutely. I rushed through this book. I could not get enough of it. And it's so realistic because, I mean, we've all been there. The whole Mean Girls thing, like, they can truly be vicious. And that teacher saying that is just like begging to be proven wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, we're vicious in a different way. And the funny thing about girls is we've all sort of been in those camps at different times in our lives, you know, and I think we're all guilty of being mean. We're all guilty of occupying these spaces, these sort of classic feminine spaces. So I wanted to explore that really and try and recreate those early days and really talk about darkness and light, but with a feminine gaze, you know.
I love it. I remember when I was reading it the first time you see, you know, the popular girls, and I just remember going, God, I know exactly who they are. It was so well done. You didn't have to go too much into anything. It was just so succinct, and they were so real that it was a little scary.
It is. It was pretty scary to go back to it. You know, I'm not sure. Obviously, we're not teenagers now, but I'm not sure if it's like that nowadays or not. So I went back to the early 90s when I was a teenager, and I remember it being very much like that. You know, the set camps and everyone was stereotyped in a particular camp, and if you didn't fit in, that was it for you. You know,
all the different.
There's no turning back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you do recognise those girls straight away, don't you?
You do.
Certainly if you're from that generation.
Oh, 100%. It was just like, oh, I could name them from my own life. I was like, this is crazy. It was so
Sorry to take you back there, Neen.
Yeah. It's all good. The book made me feel better about it. It's all good.
Yeah.
So this was your debut novel, is that correct?
It is, yeah, my debut full length, yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. I was completely blown away by it because I did read it and I was like, damn, this is a debut. Damn,
Oh, thanks, Chicken. That's really nice of you to say.
It was great, which is why I, went, can we chat? I like your writing.
Well, once I got going, I wrote it so quickly. I found it really easy to write. Well, once I got all the plotting out of the way, which I'm terrible for, but it was a real pleasure to write and difficult in places, but mainly pleasurable.
Yeah. which leads me on to the next question. Are you, for your writing, a plotter or a pantser or a plantser?
I'm definitely a mixture. I'm a plantser. So I am a terrible perfectionist, and so the early part of planning, I plot religiously. I have to know where the story's going, exactly who the characters are, write their Bibles, know what their star signs are, what they like for breakfast, all this sort of thing. I'm very much a heavy plotter, but once I reach a stage where I know where the story's going to end up and how we're going to get there, the main plot points, then I really like to sort of fly by the seat of my pants a bit, much like my life, actually. I like to have an aim and various plot points on the way, but kind of meander my way through it. What the hell? See what happens. Because sometimes we get a bit surprised and go on little nice little U-turns that mix things up a bit. Nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. And I've heard that from a few authors, how as much as, their story, they'll have some idea of plots and how they might get to the end. But if they know their characters, then they can work with it. Because whatever comes up, they know how their characters are going to react, how their characters are going to handle any kind of situation that comes at them. And boy, do you throw a whole bunch of situations at your characters.
Yeah, just a few.
Just a few. Just
poor darling Ellery. I mean, I wish I was there on the island with her. I suppose we all are, really, but we all are on the island with her. But I sort of go to bed at night and think, we should just take her out of that island just for one night with me. Have her safe in my house with my kids, and
just give her a break. Oh my gosh,
I could feed her a nice ham sandwich. So I know, poor Ellery and poor Dorks. Characters are a major. It's so important to me to get the characters right, and they drive the story forward.
And I love Dorks and how her point of view comes in. I thought that was just beautiful. I love the way you did that.
Thank you.
Who was the hardest character for you to write?
I've been asked this question before, and I think really it's Whitney. I modelled her very much on the Mean Girls that I remember. And so to go back to that place where you remember how they behaved, because I remember it wasn't often vocally translated, the meanness. It was just exclusion and judgment.
And I think...
Sorry, so it's just reaching that point where you remember how they behave, just the way they look at you, or perhaps don't look at you, and don't register you, and then actually going into getting to the vocal battles where that comes in, and the vitriol behind it. I never actually experienced that sort of at that level, but I saw other girls experience that. I always like to keep out of it as much as possible. But so that was quite hard. And the other character I thought was really tricky to get right was Miss Ramsey, because while she doesn't feature a massive amount, she's such an important character for the good girls, if you like.
Yes.
She's a major driving force behind their actions, and a device for the plot to sort of twist on a few occasions. So she was really important. I didn't want her to come across as being useless, You'll understand if you read the book that she's in this predicament where she can't help. But she's such an important character. A lot of the story revolves around her in many ways.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And while you were talking about that, I just thought that's possibly where this idea that Lord of the Flies couldn't happen if they were girls. it's just because of the way that females often, that traditional, you know, mean girl kind of thing often is that subtle, that more subtle attack, that you can't actually say they did this or they said that, because it's about the nuances. And
precisely.
and you've captured that really well. And I can imagine how hard it would be to build that up to the point where it's quite
well, as women, we've all been brought up around toxic femininity, haven't we? And that operates on a lower level a lot of the time, you know. And that's that sort of poisonous supporting of the patriarchy to get a girl where she needed to be, certainly in my generation when we were younger. And I really wanted to get across how loners feel. Because there's nothing wrong with being a loner, and I really wanted to get that across as well. It's a really good thing. The main thing is trying to stick to your morals. And try and be a good person no matter what the adversity. But we've all grown up, haven't we, as women, as fighting against that sort of toxic femininity. We've all had to deal with that on lots of different ways, and an awful lot of it is between the lines. And if you asked men about it, they wouldn't be able to read it in the situation, but women always do. You know, we're experts in that.
Unfortunately we are. It's true. Like, you can't even really pinpoint, like I was saying, you can't pinpoint it, but you know it's there. And it's because we're all so hyper aware of that in between, that it's absolutely amazing. And I personally think, because I love this book, I personally think you've captured that so well. With Ellery and with Dorks, oh my gosh. Because you get this insight and how easy it might be to just make it easy on yourself. And how hard that struggle is to just remain true to yourself.
And how that leads to loneliness in so many cases as well, because you don't want to subscribe to that other side, which ends up, or certainly when I was young, it meant you were a loner because you didn't fit in. So you're a misfit. But you know, like I say in the book, you know, if one place is a misfit, they may very well fit in very well in a different place. And the island suited these girls, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially Dorks.
Yes. She really, I love her development, like how far we get with her, and trying not to spoil the book here, but it's an intense ride for her, and it's amazing how the small, like, because there's not a lot of her point of view, but there's just enough for you to be able to see this development and the growth of it. Which makes everything else so much more impactful later on.
There were a lot of extra chapters that I cut of hers, actually. But I'm tempted to release a full journal at some point. We'll see.
That would be amazing. And what was the most difficult scene for you to write? Like, you were saying just before how, you know, it was hard to build up those scenes, but is there any specific scene itself that you struggled with the most?
The plane crash was the hardest for me to do. It's sort of the easiest to write in some ways, but it's such a pivotal scene. It's the first action scene in the book, and it sets the pace for the rest of the book. So from then on, it's really non-stop action. And it was also really, really important to show Ellery as this capable, brave, kind young woman, and as a leader, because and it's so vitally important that the readers believe that who Ellery is for the whole story to work.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was tough. It took me a long time to write that, and because it's quite a long scene, and just to get it right and get the interactions right, where Ellery emerged as sort of this unspoken heroine, you know. And I loved it, especially because Holger ends up taking hold of the controls, but only after Ellery's saved them. So it's sort of going along with this whole sort of patriarchy
Yes.
idea, but actually, actually Ellie was the one who saved them, and I think girls would appreciate that part
Yes.
of
No,
the book.
absolutely. And I have to ask because the way this book starts, I was like, well, there goes my night. I'm not sleeping now because it
I'm
starts
hearing this a lot, actually. Yeah,
so strong and powerful. Was
yeah.
that was that something that came about later, or did you always know that was sort of how you wanted to start it?
I always knew it would start with the hunt. Yeah,
Cool.
because I'm a big fan of. This is the other thing about the book is I used to love adventure books. I don't know if you had those when you were growing up. I called them adventure books where it was all first person, and you got to the end of the chapter, and it would say if you want to take the left hand path, turn to page.
Yep.
Right, we call them adventure books in the UK.
Yeah, we had the choose your own adventure.
That's it.
Yep.
So I kind of wanted it to have that feel, and which meant you had to meet the character, be introduced to her family, and that exposition would take a little while.
Yeah.
But to pull you through that whole exposition, it was important to know that this girl's going to end up in trouble, and keep reading because we need to get to know her and find out how she ends up here.
Yeah.
So I kind of hoped that would pull you through that sort of slower exposition and until the action restarts, which is when the plane crash happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew that straight away actually. That had
That's
to
so cool.
Yeah, and then I only decided later to rewrite it again further in the story, so that it's sort of like this is where we are again.
This is where we are, and now we get the rest of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely awesome. Could you tell us what are some of the biggest influences in your writing?
I was thinking about this, and I suppose the more modern influences, and you'll definitely see this in the book, is I love the first person adventure books, as I said. The modern ones would be the Hunger Games, so you'll definitely see a lot of that in my writing.
Yeah.
Divergent, the Veronica Roth. But as a teenager, my formative reading years, I was a huge fan of Stephen King and Richard Lehman, a bit of a horror fan. So you'll see that I have a bit of a dark undertone.
I love it.
My writing.
I love it. Yeah. I'm a big fan of horror and dark fantasy and all that stuff.
I don't read horror anymore, but it really formed my early reading.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a sick head somewhere, in the back of my mind.
I think we
so I definitely think of sick situations and dark. There's definitely a darkness to it, which can be tough sometimes. I try and lighten it in other areas. And then, of course, I'm also a big fan of lesfic. So as far as the Sapphic sort of the lower plot lines, I'm a big fan of the good old fluffy Sapphic romances. So
oh, okay.
There as well.
Do you have some favourite Sapphic authors?
Yeah, for sure. My first one was Curious Wine by Catherine Lee Forrest. I loved that book. And I love it's just such an incredible example of chemistry between two characters. It's astonishing. I also really love Strawberry Summer by Melissa Braden because it's first person.
Yep, I just read my first Melissa Braden book and I cannot.
Right, which one did you do?
I did Entangled.
Okay, that's fairly recent then.
Yeah, it is. But yeah.
Well, if you like first person, I really recommend Strawberry Summer to you. That's
okay, really fantastic. Yay.
Yeah, it's a really good first. You don't get a lot of first person lesbic books, so
no,
that's a really good one.
Lot.
Yeah, and also Radcliffe. Can't go wrong with Radcliffe. And my favourite of hers is Passions by Fury, I think.
Oh, excellent. Adding more to my TBR list.
A bit of a melange of horror and action, adventure and lesbic. That's basically who I am as a writer.
Excellent. No, I love that. That's so fantastic.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I need to find my audience, Neen. So.
Yeah. So are you working on anything now?
I am. I'm heavy into something at the moment. I'm planning on releasing it later this year.
Yay.
And it's another young adult first. Yeah. How much do I give away here? It's another young adult adventure.
Okay.
It's exploring witchcraft, but from a feminine point of view, from a Sapphic feminine point of view.
Yes.
And it's sort of a modern retelling of the witch hunts of the 15th century.
Oh.
So that's what I'm working on at the moment. It's tough going.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, it's a bit darker, even darker.
Yeah.
So, but I'm having fun with it. I'm also, but because of the darkness, I'm trying to train myself out of it a bit. I'm also writing a out and out romance as well, just to sort of
balance,
entertain my fluffy side. Yeah, keep the balance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just be in a cupboard with a blanket over my head and wine. It's no good for anybody.
Oh,
well, maybe.
No, not good at all.
Only 7 nights a week. Yeah, so that's absolutely rollicking along, but I think it might be longer than I'm used to, so I'm hoping it'll be out by the end of this year.
Oh, that would be amazing. Oh, I'll have to keep an eye out for that one.
I do have a full-time job, Neen, so I've got to factor in the time somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Completely understood. So do you still get time to read while you're writing?
I try as much as I can. I don't get as much time as I'd like to. You know, there's only so many hours in the day. But yeah, well, I have every intention every night to go to bed. I go to bed, I get my Kindle out, or whatever of the mile-high to-be-read pile I've got. But we're usually within about half an hour I'm asleep with my mouth open and Teddy on my chest. So I try.
Oh, I totally get it. Have you read anything recently that you would recommend?
Yeah, American Dirt. Have you heard of that by Jean Cummins? That's a really good book. It's about immigrants who go on the run after a cartel shoots her husband, and her and her son go on the run. That's a really intense, exciting book.
Wow.
I recommend that.
Yeah.
And from a lesbian point of view, I'm reading Truth and Measure by Rosalind Sinclair, finally, after being recommended by so many people. I'm really enjoying that.
It's on my list. Okay, it's on my list.
Yeah, well, I was like that too. I felt so guilty. It's one of those books where people say, "What, you haven't read that?"
I know,
so
I know.
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really, really good so far. I'm loving it so far.
Oh, that's fantastic. And where can our lovely watchers find all things Kate Castle?
Well, I'm on pretty much all social media at Kate Castle Books. And I have a website, which is kate-castle.com, where you can sign up. Yeah, you can sign up. But I'm terrible at blogging. I'm terrible at emailing, so I try and get around to it as much as possible. Any writing time I do have, I've got to write.
I'll make sure I put the link down in the comments so that anyone who
thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no.
Have you read any good books lately?
Me, I read 12 books in May. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's pretty standard.
Wow.
Yeah, I've read 58 books this year.
Holy crap. Wow.
So
I need to find some extra hours.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I work data entry for my day job.
Yeah.
And I listen to audiobooks while I do it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm able to get through a lot of books, because without that I would probably go a little bit crazy.
I really need to get into the audiobook thing. I've just discovered the podcast thing, so there's too many things to discover. It's just wow.
Yeah,
not enough hours in the day.
There's not. Look, my podcast listening has gone down terribly. I have so many to catch up on. But I'm trying to think, some of the recent ones that I've just finished this last month. Some of my favorite would be The Delicate Things We Make by Melina Mackay.
Oh, Melina Mackay, yeah.
Oh, she's amazing. The Telltale.
I haven't read any of hers yet, I must.
Oh my gosh, they're just so beautiful. Like angsty and intense, but the language is just poetic and beautiful.
Well, I love a bit of angst, so I'll definitely check those out.
Yeah. And then The Telltale by Claire Ashton.
Oh
And,
yeah, no Claire.
and One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston.
I've
They
heard a
were,
lot about Casey McQuiston, yeah.
they were probably my top. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but yeah, I get through them very quick. So
Great. Yeah, God, we just added some more to my to be read pile, Neen. You're not doing me any favours.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for this chat, Kate. It's been
You're
so
welcome.
great getting to talk to you. And like I said, I will put all the links down in the comments, and it's just, I can't wait to see what comes next. I really can't wait.
Thanks. And listen, thanks for all your support. I love your enthusiasm. I
Oh,
just loved your video review so much. I showed my mum and dad and they were just beside themselves. So
oh,
thank you
cool.
very much for your support. I really appreciate it. It's
Oh,
been a
no
pleasure.
worries. It was a great book, and it deserves to have as much, visual out there as possible. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Thanks. Hopefully speak to you soon.
Yes. Bye.
Take care.